You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to But I Digress, where sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain. I am your host, Nathan. Call me Nate Marchand. 2015 has come and gone, and like many of you, I spent a lot of time at the movie theater that year. And as you also may have noticed, 2015 was kind of a mixed bag for movies. Some were really good, and some not so much. I won't be focusing on the bad ones this year, not unless you really want to see me sigh and rage. But I will be focusing on what I think were, at least in my personal opinion, the best films that I saw in 2015. Now, I will admit there were a few movies that I wanted to see that I didn't, like In the Heart of the Sea, and The Martian, and Ex Machina, so I'm sorry they won't be on this list, and I'm qualifying the entries I have on this list as movies that I saw in a movie theater and came out in 2015. So, without further ado, let's get started on my top 5 favorite films of 2015.
The Peanuts Movie.
I don't know how many people would include this film in their top 5 or even their top 10 or 20 best films of 2015, but it's certainly going on my list. This was a movie that was incredibly surprising in a lot of ways, and I suppose in some ways it's a movie that shouldn't exist and shouldn't have been successful. For one thing, it's unabashedly G-rated. How often do you see a G-rated movie that people will take seriously and go see and not feel like it's just going to be something incredibly childish, which this film definitely isn't. But the other thing that's surprising about it is not only it's a film that none of us were sure would ever get done, let alone be done well, and it really was. This is brought to us by Blue Sky Studios, which are the guys behind Ice Age, which seems like an odd fit for Peanuts when you think about the work that they've already done. But the great thing about this is it still feels like something from the classic comic strip by Charles Schulz. It's very much in the spirit of that. The animation, interestingly, looks just like the comic strip, but it doesn't feel weird or awkward in CGI. It still works. They put in a lot of effort to make it look good in this new animation format. They even tried to make it look hand-drawn in a lot of ways, which really helps it to look like the comic strip, or even like the old Peanuts television specials and movies that we grew up watching as kids. But the best part about this movie is the writing. It was written by I believe it was the son of Charles Schulz, who unfortunately, Charles Schulz himself has unfortunately passed away. And he really captures the characters and brings us a story that very much feels like his father's comic strip. It's not modernized, it feels incredibly timeless, and touches on very timeless themes and ideas. Now, I know some people might nitpick this and say that it doesn't quite fit, because there are a few things that don't quite fit. In particular, spoiler warning, the ending, because it has something of a happy ending for Charlie Brown. But honestly, that didn't really bother me. It felt natural and even necessary, because in a lot of ways, and one of the reasons why it touched me is because all of us at one point or another feel like Charlie Brown, like nothing ever goes right for us, but we keep trying anyway. So seeing him actually be successful and happy at the end was a very welcome outcome for him.
Bring back everything that's ever hurt you. All the pain you had inside. They don't know what we've been through. You belong here.
Creed was another surprise in 2015. On the surface, it seems like a film that's either going to be great or it's just going to be a lousy, nostalgic cash grab, because there's been a lot of those going on lately. This is the 7th entry in a film franchise that hasn't seen an entry in nearly 10 years, and let's be honest, as most franchises that go on this long are wont to do, most of the later entries are pale imitations of what came before it. Plus, it had a totally new writer/director who wasn't Sylvester Stallone, making this the first Rocky movie that wasn't at least written by Stallone. So there was the potential that whoever did this really didn't understand what the franchise, what those other movies were about, and he was just going to botch it. But found out that he's a fan of the franchise and wanted Stallone to be involved with it, and so on some level, which is why he's in it as Rocky, which was a great thing because it helped bring some continuity to this. But as I'm here to tell you, it is a great film. It has all the things that you expect to see in a Rocky movie, the training montages, the life lessons, the intense boxing scenes. It's all there, all done really well, even though it's stuff that we've come to expect and we know is coming. But the best part of the entire movie is certainly Sylvester Stallone's performance as Rocky. This is a character that he has played for many years. He knows it really well, and he knows how to infuse this guy with such a great amount of heart that you can't help but like him. Even though he's, as my grandfather would put it, dumb as a box of rocks. You can't help but like him. I would love to hang out with Rocky, no matter what age he's at. And the other thing that was interesting about it is the fact that it is about Apollo Creed's son. And the fact that he wants Rocky to train him. So, as I joked on Facebook after seeing this movie, when last we saw Rocky, he was but the learner. Now he is the master. So he's come full circle. He's become Mickey, in the original movie. The grizzled old guy is teaching the young guy all the ropes. No pun intended. And this stars Michael B. Johnson as the titular character, Apollo Creed's son. And it's great to see him actually be in a good movie, giving a great performance, considering that he just came off of one of the worst movies of 2015, Fantastic Four. So it's great to see that he has genuine talent, and it's not going to waste.
That's the best you can do!
You had to ask.
See? Hey, I'm doing what I promised. A video review of Age of Ultron, just like I've been saying I would do for months. I know it's not exactly how you might have wanted it. It's certainly not exactly how I would have wanted to do it. But this is the closest thing to making a timely supplemental video review to my text review on Examiner that I could come up with. All of that to say, I love this movie. I really do. I love the Avengers characters. I love superhero movies, and for me, this was easily the best superhero movie of 2015, of which, obviously, there were several. I know it was a divisive movie. A lot of fans didn't feel like it lived up to the original film. Then there was also the somewhat controversial romance between Bruce Banner and Natasha Romanoff, aka the Hulk and Black Widow, and if I had more time, I would really go into that. But for me, the movie still works really well. The only reason I think people feel like it wasn't quite as good as the original is because the original was something that hadn't been seen before. It was totally new and it was exciting. There was a lot of hype behind it because this had been something that had been built up through 5 films for 4 years and all of that sort of stuff. And you finally saw it happen on the big screen, and people were just awed by it. And in this case, you're getting a lot of the same things that you got in the first movie, and then a bunch of new stuff. So since it wasn't quite as fresh and new in some people's eyes, at least conceptually, I think they just weren't quite as excited about it. But for me, it took the characters in new, interesting places. They're already a team, and now they're learning how to continue to be a team. It's not about them coming together, and they're finding all these new and interesting things about each other. I won't spoil it in case you're one of the handful of people who hasn't seen it yet. And it has plenty of great special effects and action, all the things you come to expect in an Avengers movie, and from Joss Whedon, including a few new characters and a great new villain, I thought. And as for the controversial romance, it didn't bother me at all, and that's about all I'm going to say about it. I thought it was a bunch of drummed up controversy. So if you haven't seen Avengers, do yourself a favor and watch it. Because like I said, easily best superhero movie of 2015.
Hang on! Riley, here we come!
Another thing I love? Pixar. I have loved Pixar since I was a kid and I saw the original Toy Story in a movie theater. I can't get enough of Pixar. So the fact that they had 2 movies out in 2015 when they had none come out the year before, I can't begin to tell you how excited I was to see those. But unfortunately, I felt like I could only reasonably pick one of them to be on my top 5 list. And there's really no contest. It goes to Inside Out. I'm sorry, Good Dinosaur, but it goes to Inside Out. This movie is wonderful. I would honestly argue, as much as I love Toy Story and WALL-E and all of those movies, that this is easily Pixar's best movie. This is their magnum opus, their masterpiece among masterpieces. It's so good. It's clever. It is imaginative. It's well researched in child psychology, but considering how well it seems like the guys at Pixar understand kids anyway, I'm sure it wasn't too much of a stretch for them to get it right, especially after they did their research. And the characters are they're funny, they're poignant, and in the hands of just about anybody else, these characters who are just manifestations, these anthropomorphisms of different emotions in people's heads, easily they could have been turned into one-note, one-dimensional characters that are boring by themselves but potentially entertaining when they play off of each other. And these characters are so much more than that. They are multifaceted. They aren't just sticking to whatever emotion that that they are in charge of, I guess is the best way to put it. And just the amount of ideas and concepts and how Pixar manages to take these abstract ideas, these abstract concepts about how the mind works and translate them into these concrete things that ring so true. And it's a simple but touching story that anyone can identify with. If you have not seen this movie, you need to watch it right now, especially if you have kids, because your kids will love it. This is easily the best family film of 2015.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
Really? Is it any surprise to you that me, of all people, would have The Force Awakens as my favorite movie of 2015? Pshaw. I kind of wish I had a costume to do this part, or at least a prop. Hey, Nerdimus Prime!
Yes, Nate?
Can I borrow your lightsaber for this part of the video?
Sure.
Alright, thanks. But aren't you supposed to be an alternate mode for me?
I am not the character you're looking for.
It's a bad day for the Jedi mind trick. How are you a separate character now?
Because shut up, that's why.
Fair enough. Anyway, The Force Awakens. Highest grossing movie of all time, 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's been analyzed and nitpicked by fans and non-fans alike, including myself. I wrote a 2,000-word review of it for Geek Magazine, to which there's a link in the video description below, along with my other text reviews of the movies I'm talking about today. So, really, what is there left to talk about? Well, despite all of its acclaim, it has become a bit of a divisive film in the fan community. Some of whom, let's say, if Star Wars was a religion, that there are some groups out there who are the crazy cult that sprang off from it. There was one in particular that is upset that the expanded universe was officially declared non-canonical, which I kind of questioned its canonicity anyway, so that these films could do, some fresh new stories without being slaves to any of that. And they tried to spoil the movie so nobody would go see it, and so that way they could get the expanded universe's canonicity reinstated. I'm sorry, fellas, get over yourselves. Anyway, but besides that, there have been some who have complained that there were too many parallels. It's to the original movie. That it's too much like the original movie, and I can see that. Most of them didn't really bother me, other than the fact that the bad guys built the Death Star for a third time. I mean, really, guys, you didn't learn anything from the first two failures, and just because you made it as big as a planet instead of a moon, you somehow think this is better? I mean, what'd you do? Build this in Texas? Because everything's bigger in Texas? But I digress. Anyway, this is actually a classic bit of storytelling. It's called the ring cycle, where everything kind of loops back around. It's an old form of storytelling. You see it all the time in myths. So, honestly, like I said, it didn't really bother me. And there was so much new stuff in this, so many new and interesting ideas. The new characters are great. It was amazing to see some old friends, the original characters showing back up in this. And it was also kind of tear-jerking at some points about it. I won't give any spoilers, as I'm sure there's still a spoiler embargo about this movie going on the internet. But it is incredibly fun. And yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but it's still better than the prequels, and I don't know where exactly I would rank it in comparison to the original trilogy, but it's still an amazing movie. And the thing that makes this work is that even though it is a lot like the original movie, it is setting things up that could go into a lot of very interesting directions, which I think was what the point of this was. It's kind of a transitional movie. It's for fans who have just discovered Star Wars or know nothing about Star Wars. It's a way to get them interested in it, especially since they're going to be pumping out a Star Wars movie every year now. And for longtime fans like myself, it's a way of saying, hey, we still remember how to make a good Star Wars movie. It's like seeing an old friend that you haven't seen in a while who's fallen on hard times, but he was really cool, and he's showing back up and saying, hey, I can still do all the same really cool tricks, and now that I've shown you that I can still do my old really cool tricks, I'm going to show you my new ones. So, thank you so much, Disney, and kudos to you, J.J. Abrams, for proving that this could be done. It's something that we all thought never could happen, and now it really has. And for those of us who have our heads screwed on right, we're looking forward to seeing where you go from here. You've proven that you know what you're doing. Now show us something new, because that'll get us even more excited. But there you have it. My top 5 favorite films of 2015. Do you agree or disagree with this list? What were your 5 favorite films of 2015? Leave some comments below. I would love to discuss these things with my fellow moviegoers. Speaking of which, thanks for letting me borrow your lightsaber, Nerdimus.
You're welcome.
So, if I can use your lightsaber now, does that mean I'm a Jedi?
I don't know.
You will drop your lightsaber and walk away.
If it didn't work on you, it's not gonna work on me.
You will drop your lightsaber and walk away.
I will drop my lightsaber and walk away.
Anyway, thanks for joining me on But I Digress. This is Nate Marchand, signing off. Take one. Ready and action. Come on, get it over